It took all this for the father to get custody of his children. Why does it take a mother doing such heinous acts for a father to be deemed as the reasonable parent? This episode is literally crazy.
A mother of three will be back in court tomorrow after police say she illegally took her children from Michigan and brought them here to Florida. The father of two of the children, James Peck, said he has been worried for weeks when his girls didn't return home.
On Sunday, 3 bounty hunters found Courtney Peck with her young children in Atlantic Beach at what police believe to be her boyfriend's home on Kimberly Court. While the mother was turned over to police, the bounty hunters stayed with the girls until they were reunited with their father. Channel 4's Janice Harris joining us live after speaking with those bounty hunters today. Janice?
Yes, I got a chance to talk with them. And before Courtney Peck ever even left Michigan, those bounty men told me that she already had a trail of alleged crimes in Michigan. Right now, Courtney Peck is in a Duval jail without bond for kidnapping two of her three children. But the bondsmen who found her say she had problems in Michigan, too. Kelly Masters of Masters Recovery.
She was running from 2 felony warrants in Michigan.
Peck was arrested for driving under the influence and identity theft in Michigan. But Masters says in both cases, it's possible she would have received probation if Peck had not run away, especially with her children.
So we needed to apprehend her, and that was our job. The kids were just a bonus. I mean, they were the motivation that drove this train. I wasn't going to sleep until the mother was in custody and the kids were in good hands.
This all happened when 39-year-old Courtney Peck failed to return James Peck's two daughters to his Northville Township home 2 weeks ago. Peck had driven over 1,000 miles from Michigan and ended up in Florida, but the bountymen found her within 10 minutes of arriving at her boyfriend's house. Police came and took Peck to jail. Now that 8-year-old Caitlin and 5-year-old Charlotte have been reunited with their father, these bondsmen have a message for any parent who has a criminal past.
It's a sad story. They shouldn't put them in predicaments like that.
And the bondsmen say never do anything like that. Never get your children involved. Meanwhile, Peck, she is still in jail and she has 3 children total. We've mentioned that, but she's only facing 2 felony charges. The reason is because the 2 children that she has with her ex-husband were a part of this kidnapping charges. The other child is not involved in that. Now, aside from that, she will be back in court tomorrow, and the children have headed back home to Michigan with their father. They're expected to start school tomorrow. At the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office jail, Janice Harris, Channel 4, the local station.
But wait,
there's more.
This Michigan mother of 3 charged with kidnapping 2 of her children is back in a Duval County courtroom for a custody hearing. New information in the bizarre case of Courtney Peck, who was arrested Sunday after fugitive agents found her in Atlantic Beach. The 2 girls who police say were kidnapped started school back in Michigan today. Peck's ex-husband, James Peck, drove them back yesterday after being reunited with them Sunday.
Courtney Peck's 1-year-old daughter right now is in the custody of the Department of Children and Families here in Jacksonville. Channel 4's Janice Harris was in court for the hearing on who should care for the baby. She's joining us live. Janice.
We were the only cameras there as Courtney Peck went into the hearing to have a discussion about her youngest child. She's facing those federal charges, those 2 kidnapping charges, but she also has this felony charges back in Michigan. So the question is, who will take care of her child while she's in jail?
Petition, but according to the mother, is not.
Courtney Peck stood before Judge Susan Bass for the beginning stages of a case to determine who will take care of her 1-year-old child while she is in jail. Peck was arrested Sunday after authorities found her at an Atlantic Beach home. The 2 girls were returned to their father, but the youngest child was taken by the Department of Children and Family Services. DCF says they still have the child.
We're continuing to investigate. We began our investigation as soon as we were notified about this situation. We were definitely very concerned. We want to work to ensure that the child is safe and that any services that can be provided to help the child will do that.
The child cannot go to its biological father. In court, Peck confirms she does not know who the father is.
I do not know who the father of Gabriel is.
Courtney Peck also said in court today the man she was staying with in Atlantic Beach is not the father of the 3rd child, and he is not her boyfriend, only a friend. There is hope for the child being released to his or her family. The child's grandmother, Pamela Ann Gilbert, was in court today. Peck and her mother have Native American lineage. Under the Indian American Child Welfare Act, the tribe may also have a say in where the child goes. Peck was supposed to have another hearing today. She was supposed to have an extradition hearing. That was canceled because of those two federal charges, the kidnapping charges, that trumps the felony charges that are in Michigan. So U.S. Marshals are supposed to come and get Peck, then take her to court, where she will then go before a federal judge regarding those kidnapping charges. In Duval County, Janice Harris, Channel 4, the local station.
My God. So, geez, cheese and rice. This is one of those tough cases where it took a lot to get dad custody of his children. Bounty hunters were involved. Kidnapping was involved. Crossing state lines without notifying the father or the court was involved. And I want to dive even deeper into this. So what we're going to do right now is I did some research for you guys because this is what we do here on Fathers Win. And again, this is not a channel where we bash women. We are just trying to show fathers winning in court. And then we're also trying to help fathers navigate the family court system. So we're going to go ahead and look at the actual court paperwork for what happened after these two hearings were held. So this is from 2018. Let's fast forward now to February of 2019 when Mrs. Peck, her name is Courtney Ann Peck, actually had to go before a judge and explain herself. Since the parties in 2014 separation, the circuit court has entered several orders governing custody of the parties' two daughters. The parties are James Andrew Peck, the father, who is going to be referred to as the plaintiff, appealee, and then Courtney Ann Peck. She's the star of the show. This is the mom. She's the defendant and the appellant. May 17, 2018, there was an order granted for permanent sole legal and physical custody to the plaintiff, that's dad, and continuing to limit the defendant, mom's, parenting time to 2 hours of weekly visits supervised by a therapist. The defendant contends that Oakland Circuit Court Judge Karen McDonald, who took over the proceedings on December 30th, 2016, so that's even before the kidnapping happened, should have been disqualified as she previously worked at the law firm that represented the defendant, which is the mom, in related proceedings, other family court drama. It goes on to say, in relation to the current order, defendant challenges the circuit court's exclusion of certain evidence and contends that the court misrepresented its evidentiary hearing regarding custody and parenting time, and it would only pertain to the admissibility of evidence. The mom contests the court's judgment that its custody order is in the children's best interest. We discern no errors and affirm. That's what the court is saying. Okay, so the defendant, the mom, is saying, hey, you need to go ahead and throw out the ruling taking my children away from me because the father, my ex-husband, he hired a law firm that also employed the judge who presided over the case. So, of course, you guys were going to take my children away from me, and this isn't fair. That's her argument. That is literally her argument here. Going into the background, the plaintiff, so again, the plaintiff is the father, filed for divorce on August 20th, 2014, after defendant accused him, that's the wife, the mom, of domestic violence against her, and falsely, don't forget that, falsely accused him of their children. YouTube doesn't like when we use that word. Falsely accused him of SA the children. Defendant's parents had also initiated a probate court action to have the defendant committed to a residential facility to address alcohol, drug, and mental health issues. So Courtney's parents wanted her institutionalized for mental illness. Before the divorce could be finalized, the defendant, Courtney, had a baby boy with a Florida man with whom she has been having an affair. Lord Jesus. She was arrested for fleeing from the police at high speeds with her baby in the vehicle. Then defendant kidnapped her 2 daughters after an agreed upon vacation to northern Michigan. So she said, hey, I'm going to northern Michigan. Forget that. I'm going to Florida. And fled to Florida. Ultimately, the court limited defendant to supervised parenting time with a therapist. That's what you guys just saw. The court later revisited its parenting time order and determined that awarding sole legal and physical custody to the plaintiff, that's the dad, was in the children's best interest. Specifically, defendant remained unemployed and had been living with her young son and an aunt. Defendant and her boyfriend had engaged in a physical altercation in her aunt's garage. Her aunt summoned the police and evicted the defendant, the mother. Oh boy. Defendant has since been living at a hotel. Defendant had also purchased a home on an Indian reservation in the Upper Peninsula of Florida. The court found reasonable plaintiff's fear that the defendant would abscond with the children to the Upper Peninsula if allowed unsupervised parenting time. What does that mean? The dad said, hey, based on my ex-wife's troubled past, if you guys allow her more physical custody or time with the children, she might kidnap them again and go to the Indian reservation of Florida. I live in Michigan. She's going to Florida. Now, why did that word abscond stand out to me? I'll tell you why. Because as you guys know from my videos earlier this year, just 2 months ago in November, I took my daughter to Jamaica. My family is Jamaican. We got our daughter her citizenship. She's 8 years old. And she went to Jamaica for the first time. While in Jamaica, because by law I have to, and it's the right thing to do, every single day I emailed her mother pictures and updates, letting her know how our daughter was doing in Jamaica, letting her know when we were coming back home. Shame on me. I didn't realize that our daughter's Jamaican passport, U.S. birth certificate, and expired U.S. passport were not going to allow us to re-enter the country. So, after notifying the mother, what did she do? She contacted Child Protective Services in the state of Arizona. She contacted the International Child's Bureau in Washington, D.C., and she reported our child absconded by father. She said that I kidnapped our daughter and ran away to Jamaica, even though I was trying to get her back home. That is completely different than what this is. And the reason why I'm so frustrated while reading this story is it took all this for the father to get custody of his children. Why does it take a mother doing such heinous acts for a father to be deemed as the reasonable parent? Not saying that all moms are bad, but family court needs an overhaul. This is insane. Let's read some more. Admissibility. Defendant. Now remember, the defendant is the mother, Courtney, okay? Defendant challenges the circuit court preclusion of a report prepared by Dr. Friedberg documenting his observations during supervised parenting time sessions. In the fall of 2017, defendant filed a show cause motion against plaintiff because he failed to bring their daughters to a supervised parenting time session with Dr. Friedberg. It appears that Dr. Friedberg had recommended that supervised parenting time be moved to the home of the defendant's aunt. At the time, December 13th, 2017, show cause hearing, plaintiff stated that he disagreed with the doctor's recommendation because of defendant's history of parental kidnapping and the danger that defendant would flee with their children to the Upper Peninsula home in Florida. Plaintiff also questioned Dr. Friedberg's ability to supervise parenting time as he allowed defendant to serve a motion on plaintiff in front of the children. The court indicated that it would not rule on the show cause motion until it heard from the doctor. Defendant ordered to present Dr. Friedberg's report, but the court stated it's not admissible. It has to be him testifying. So what's going on here is mom is saying, hey, I don't like what the doctor recommended. And because the father submitted the testimony of the doctor, it wasn't the doctor actually in court, none of this should be heard, which it wasn't. But mom is just pretty much pulling straws at this point and saying, I don't like the way that I'm being treated, even though my behavioral pattern shows that I am an incompetent, unstable parent and adult. I should get what I want. And dad is cleaning up in court. And by cleaning up, I mean he's making sure the right things are being done for his two children. And mom just isn't able to comprehend that there are consequences to falsifying, to lying, to being deceitful. When she first said that the ex-husband SA'd the children and that was found not to be true, to me, she should have lost her parental custody rights right there. And that frustrates me because that's something I dealt with or am dealing with too to this day. My ex-wife lied on my brother who has passed away 3 years ago and say that he SA'd our daughter. That was proven to not be true. Proven. Nothing happened to her. There was nothing done to her that made her say she was sorry, force her to apologize, force her to go on record and say that it wasn't true. Child Protective Services were involved, and our pediatrician who did a full body physical on our little girl was involved. And both came together and said there is absolutely no evidence of any of this ever happening. And nobody disciplined my ex-wife for this. Nobody said, yo, you're wrong for that. So what's it going to take? A woman like her to kidnap our daughter, go on a high-speed chase, and get in trouble with the police for the court to finally realize, okay, maybe it isn't in the best interest that you have this much power in this family court hearing. I'm serious, guys. As exaggeratory as that sounds, is this what it takes for fathers to get what they want in family court? Why does it take this much for a mother to be ruled not the satisfactory parent? So let's go over the custody ruling in closing. The defendant argues that the circuit court erred by granting permanent sole legal and physical custody to plaintiff without first finding that she was an unfit parent or that the children were at risk of harm in her custody. Do you guys understand what this means? This means that, remember, the plaintiff is the dad, the defendant is the mom. So let me read that again. The defendant, the mother, argues that the court erred by granting permanent sole legal and physical custody to the plaintiff, the father, without first finding that she was an unfit parent or that the children were at risk of harm in her custody. Plaintiff further contends that the court erroneously applied the best interest factors applicable to child custody case in fashioning its ruling. Defendant contends that plaintiff was held to a higher burden of proof, establishing that she was an unfit parent, before he could be awarded full custody of their children. Okay. The plain language of this statute imposes a higher burden only when the custody dispute is between a parent and a non-parent. As the custody dispute was between two parents, the best interests of the children controlled. Okay, I see what's going on. So, mom is saying that dad was not held to as high of a standard as she was, and that it wasn't fair. And the court is saying, hey, you might think that because one of you, as in one of the parents, has ties to a Indian tribe. However, we don't care. We as the court only want what's in the best interest of the children. We didn't hold either parent in higher or lesser standard than the other. My gosh, that was a tongue twister for real. So I apologize if I confused anybody in that. Ultimately, what I'm trying to break down is this. Fellas, men, guys, it's Vinark MP. Fathers win. I said it before, I'll say it again. We don't bash women. We don't hate women. But I will tell you this. There is a peculiar culture in family court where mothers are looked at as the favorable parent a lot of times. And usually it takes an act of God like this, a crazy situation for you to get that custody. But it doesn't have to be this way. Go back and look at the videos in this series. Look at the videos where the lawyers are talking to you. Look at the multiple cases that we go over. Remember the Iraq method. Show your evidence. Document your evidence. File. If you've got child support involved, file that financial affidavit. If supervised visitation or really cantankerous relationships are at hand here with you and the mother, document your phone calls or document your emails. Document those text messages. Be able to prove everything that you're saying in a non-emotional way. So it doesn't have to get this bad before you get the 50-50 joint custody that you deserve or the full custody that you might deserve. This episode was just insane. Insane. And it hurts me that these children are involved in this. 3 children, 3 babies. And it also hurts that it takes this kind of degenerate behavior for a father to be looked at as the reasonable parent. It should not be this way. Should not be this way. Do not forget, fathers do win. Sometimes it's a lot harder, but as the Bible tells us, do not grow weary in well-doing. Or as Lupe Fiasco, the prolific rapper, one of my favorite rappers of all time, once said, struggle is just another sign that God loves you. All right? God bless you guys. Happy New Year. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Drop a comment. Was this not the craziest family court drama that you've ever heard? Let me know in the comment section. What's it going to take for fathers to not have to go through this kind of treachery to be looked at also as the reasonable parent? Take care, guys. See you on the next one.
Fighting for fairness, one dad at a time. Fathers